As the decade comes to a close, we've taken a trip down memory lane to come up with our top 10 Formula 1 drivers since 2010. In 10th, it's Mark Webber. The early part of the 2010s set the stage for Webber to go from F1 midfield journeyman to almost world champion. Webber remained a close match for his teammate, and arguably without his unlucky elimination in career, would have been crowned champion in Abu Dhabi after a stellar season. The form of 2010 and 2011 saw Webber at the very peak of his powers in F1, showing impressive consistency and a cool head often lacked by his precocious but ultimately quicker teammate at the time. Stepping into Mark Webber's shoes at Red Bull, Daniel Ricciardo would have surely wondered what he was getting himself into as Vettel's teammate for 2014. Yet by the end of that season, he had wrestled the momentum away from the German, proving himself at F1's top table. Ricciardo's half season at HRT and 2 years with Toro Rosso were solid if unspectacular, doing enough to clinch the Red Bull seat for 2014, and it proved to be the right call. 3 race victories and a 12-7 qualifying win over Vettel. Ricciardo's affable off-track demeanour belies the steely racer within. He has emerged as one of F1's most complete racers and will surely be one of the first names on every team's shortlist for 2021 as a result of his emergence through the 2010s. In 8th, it's Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen didn't reach the heights he did in the noughties, nor was he especially consistent, but he remained one of the toughest men to beat in Formula 1. Raikkonen wasted little time proving he'd lost none of his speed during his 2-year stint out when he returned at Lotus in 2012. Taking 3rd in the championship and a famous victory in Abu Dhabi, his win to open the 2013 season remains the most recent win for anyone outside of the big 3 teams. 2014 and 2015 were difficult years upon returning to Ferrari, but Raikkonen began to look more and more like his old self at the team. The introduction of the new cars in 2017 certainly helped, resulting in a strong 2018 that saw him rack up 12 podium appearances, one of which was a victory in Austin, fending off Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen in the closing stages. Even before his move up to Mercedes and emergence as a regular Grand Prix winner, Valtteri Bottas was one of Formula 1's top performers, leading Williams in the early days of the hybrid era. Bottas showed signs of star quality even through Williams' miserable 2013 and produced some stunning drives through 2014, racking up 6 podiums and coming close to pole on several occasions en route to 4th in the championship. Bottas' consistency was such that when Nico Rosberg dropped his retirement bombshell and Mercedes were short of options, he was the most qualified driver who could step into the seat. The Finn did so with confidence, winning his 4th race and helping the team to the Constructors' title. When you're Lewis Hamilton's teammate, that's the most you can hope to do. But 2019 was Bottas' best year to date. He reinvented himself over the winter to come back with extra edge and steel that sent him to 4 race wins and 2nd in the championship, with his best haul of points to date. It takes something special to beat Lewis Hamilton in the same car. Jenson Button is one of just 2 men to achieve the feat, which alone goes some way to prove why he's one of the top drivers of the 2010s. Button started the decade off the back of his fairy tale title winner Brawn, but with a point to prove. Was he champion because of the car alone? Winning 2 of his first 4 races for McLaren in 2010 answered that question pretty convincingly. But 2011, the year he beat Hamilton, was surely the peak of Button's career performances. Even in the face of the dominant Vettel-Red Bull partnership, Button was able to take the fight more often than most, scoring 3 wins and ending the year with a run of 8 podiums in the final 9 races. On his day, Button was one of the very best in F1, proving his 2009 success was no flash in the pan. The other man to beat Hamilton head-to-head across the season? Nico Rosberg, but we'll get to that in a bit. Rosberg's only 2 teammates through the 2010s were the 2 greatest drivers in F1 history. The German defeated Michael Schumacher fairly comfortably through their 3 seasons together. Then came his 3-season standoff with Hamilton. He was firmly second best both in 2014 and 2015, but went to astonishing lengths to deliver the 2016 campaign that finally yielded a world title. Whereas in the previous years, Hamilton could recover from errors to still make Rosberg crack, the German posed a tougher defence this time round. Yes, Hamilton was unfortunate in 2016, but Rosberg capitalised on the opportunities and in some cases made his own luck. Take Suzuka, where he scored pole by 0.013 seconds, a gap he put down to losing some muscle off his legs by changing his training routine. To beat one of the greats, he had to go to the ends of the earth. Rosberg may have thrown in the towel after that race, but he ends the 2010s as one of just 3 drivers to win a championship. Only Hamilton and Vettel won more races through the decade, and Rosberg's came across the span of just 5 seasons. Credit where credit's due. Has any driver shaken the tree in Formula 1 quite as much as Max Verstappen in the past decade? From his shock appointment at Toro Rosso for 2015 to his even more shocking appointment at Red Bull a little over a year later, every single time Verstappen proved it was the correct call to make. He justified every single decision because he is that good. Real greatness can be proven by an ability to adapt and overcome setbacks. Verstappen did that in early 2018, recovering from a string of incidents to end the year as one of the most consistent performers. In 2019, he went on to beat both Ferrari drivers to third in the standings with an inferior car. The weaknesses seen in Verstappen even a year ago have been wiped away for the most part. He's got over 100 races under his belt, 8 wins, and was the man to take the fight to Lewis Hamilton more often than anyone in 2019. What's all the more staggering is that Verstappen is only going to get better. Is he the favourite to be number 1 when we look back on the top drivers of the 2020s? Undoubtedly. If you were to predict this list at the start of the 2010s, you would have been hard pressed not to place Fernando Alonso at the very top. It's astonishing to think he ended the decade without adding to his 2 world titles, scoring just 11 wins in a 9-season period. 2010 seemed to be a reset for Alonso. Following his ill-fated year at McLaren and 2-year exile with Renault, Ferrari presented what seemed like a match made in heaven. He could bring the Schumacher effect, build a team around him and go on a spree of race and title wins. But it didn't work out that way. He came extremely close in 2010 and more impressively in 2012 when Ferrari seriously lacked the pace to fight with Red Bull. As the Vettel-Red Bull juggernaut grew stronger, Ferrari struggled to respond, leaving Alonso frustrated. Things soured quickly, resulting in the team drafting in Sebastian Vettel for the 2015 season. Out of options, Alonso then pinned his hopes on the renewed McLaren-Honda partnership, only for that to badly backfire. For all of the baggage that came with him, Alonso remained pound for pound one of the best on the F1 grid throughout the 2010s. If you wanted somebody who would wring every last tenth out of the car, he was your guy. Sebastian Vettel's star may have fallen slightly in the closing stages of this decade, but that does not detract from there being a time when the whole F1 world looked to be his for the taking. His last gasp title win in 2010 set him up for a stunning run of form through the next 3 seasons, with 2013 seeing him at his unstoppable best, winning 9 races in a row. He took a little time to get comfortable with the 2012 Red Bull, but once he did, Alonso's title hopes always looked to be at serious risk. Yes, since then things have been more difficult. The changes in car regulations have not suited Vettel's driving style as much as they did in the early 2010s, but he has still been outstanding at the front. Mistakes have certainly crept in over the past 2 seasons, but his 2010-13 streak will go down as one of the most dominant periods enjoyed by a driver in F1 history. Nothing can devalue or take that away from him. Of the 10 seasons this decade, Lewis Hamilton was a title contender in 8 of them and won 5. He's won 65 races throughout that period and gone from a 1-time champion to a 6-timer. One short of a record once thought unbeatable. As for Michael Schumacher's win record, that doesn't stand a chance. The 2010s saw Hamilton not only become one of the greatest drivers in F1 history, but also mature greatly. Yes, Hamilton has been in the fastest car for the majority of the V6 hybrid era, but he has dealt with the opposition in such a clinical fashion, he has stood head and shoulders above the rest. He has enjoyed the kind of dominance seen by Vettel in the early part of the decade, but with fewer dips. There were struggles, there were hard times, but Hamilton's record of winning a race in every season of his F1 career remains intact. The title defeat to Rosberg acted as a wake-up call to Hamilton. It proved that a driver below his level could beat him in the same car. But now with this even better Lewis Hamilton, it's really hard to see that ever happen again. The debate over the greatest of all time will probably never end, but in the 2010s, it's easy. Lewis Hamilton was the best of the lot, and it's not even close. That was our list, but who was your favourite driver from the 2010s? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.